It was a quiet morning in the small town of Willow Creek. The sun had barely risen, and its soft golden light stretched across the old wooden houses, touching the dew-covered rooftops. The town was still waking up, and in one small home, the Thompson family was beginning their day. Sarah, the mother, gently stirred the children awake, her hands soft but steady. Emily, the eldest, rubbed her eyes and yawned, while little Jacob clung to his mother's arm, not wanting to leave the warmth of her hug. Mark, the father, stood by the kitchen table sipping his morning coffee, glancing at the morning newspaper, smiling faintly at the small notes Sarah had left on it the night before. Life for the Thompsons was simple but filled with quiet joys. Emily had her drawing pad and pencils, always sketching the small wonders she noticed around the house. Jacob loved the sound of the birds outside the window, naming each one as if they were his friends. Sarah and Mark shared small, unspoken moments of love, a glance, a smile, a hand lightly touching another's shoulder. Their home was modest, with a creaky wooden floor and walls lined with family photographs. Each picture told a story: birthdays celebrated, vacations taken, moments of laughter frozen forever. And even though they didn't have much, the Thompsons had enough to be content. They had each other, and that, they believed, was enough. That morning, as Sarah prepared breakfast, the warm smell of toasted bread and fresh eggs filled the air. Mark hummed a tune while reading the news, and the children giggled at small, playful jokes, a melody of ordinary happiness echoing through the house. Outside, the world moved slowly. The postman delivered letters, neighbors tended their gardens, and a gentle breeze rustled the leaves of the oak trees lining the street. Everything seemed perfect, ordinary, and safe. The Thompsons didn't know that within a few hours, this ordinary day would mark the beginning of a life-altering journey. As the family sat down for breakfast, they shared stories of small dreams and hopes for the day. Emily spoke excitedly about a drawing she wanted to finish, and Jacob talked about the bird he hoped to see that day. Sarah smiled, her heart full, and Mark nodded, silently promising himself that he would do everything to protect and provide for this family. And in that warm, quiet home, with the sun casting gentle rays through the windows, the Thompsons had no idea that the foundation of their life was about to be shaken. Life, as they knew it, was about to change forever. It started with a phone call. Mark was in the garage, preparing his tools for the day's work, when the phone rang. He wiped his hands on a rag and picked it up. Single quotes, "Hello?" he said, his voice calm, expecting a friendly neighbor or a supplier. A long pause followed. Then, the words came, heavy and sharp, cutting through the quiet morning like a cold gust of wind. "Mr. Thompson, there's been an accident. The factory, it's burned down. You've lost everything." Mark froze. His hand dropped the phone, and his heart raced. He struggled to breathe, as if each inhalation was heavier than the last. Sarah, noticing his pale face, ran into the garage. "Mark? What happened?" His lips quivered. The factory. Everything is gone." Emily and Jacob, sensing their parents' panic, came running. "Papa, what's wrong?" Emily asked, her eyes wide with concern. "I don't know how to explain," Mark whispered, his voice breaking. "Everything we built, it's gone." In that instant, the Thompsons' world shattered. The business that had supported them for years, their savings, even some of their possessions, they were all gone in a single moment of fire and disaster. The days that followed were a blur of smoke-filled memories, paperwork, insurance calls, and sleepless nights. The home that once smelled of toast and warm coffee now carried the weight of worry. Each corner reminded them of what they had lost. Sarah sat by the window for hours, staring at the empty lot where the factory had once stood. She held Emily's hand tightly and whispered, "We'll get through this." "We have to." Mark, meanwhile, wandered through what remained of their belongings, touching each object as if saying goodbye to a piece of their past. "How did this happen so fast?" he murmured. "One fire, one mistake, and it's all gone." Emily tried to sketch the scene in her notebook, her little fingers trembling. She drew the burnt walls, the blackened beams, and the smoke curling into the sky. "It's like the factory vanished," she said softly, almost to herself. Jacob, younger and unable to fully understand, asked, "Papa, do we still have our toys?" Mark knelt down and nodded, holding him close. "Yes, buddy. We still have each other." Nights became long and silent. The family gathered in their small living room, no longer full of laughter, but filled with quiet questions, whispered fears, and the occasional soft sob. The warmth of their home seemed distant now, replaced with a heaviness that pressed down on every heart. Friends came by to offer help, but Sarah and Mark often felt ashamed to accept anything. They were proud people who had always relied on their hard work. Now they faced the humbling reality of starting from nothing. One evening, Sarah whispered to Mark, "Do you think we can do it? Can we really start again?" Mark took her hand, squeezing it tightly, his eyes reflecting the same fear he felt inside. "I don't know," he admitted. "But we have to try. For the kids. For us." And so, the Thompsons began to navigate the endless maze of forms, meetings, and job applications. Each day brought new challenges, but also small moments of hope. A kind neighbor helping with groceries, a friend offering a small loan, or simply a quiet moment together where nothing else mattered but love. In these moments, the Thompsons realized a painful truth. Life could take everything from you in an instant, but it could not take away the strength that bound a family together. It was fragile, yes, but also resilient in ways they never fully understood until now. And as the sun set on another hard day, they held each other close, finding a spark of hope even in the midst of loss. Because even when everything is gone, family, love, and the determination to survive remain. And that, they learned, was everything that truly mattered. The weeks that followed tested the Thompsons in ways they could never have imagined. Every morning brought new challenges, and the weight of loss pressed heavily on each of them. Sarah woke before dawn, preparing breakfast for the children and herself, then left for the few odd jobs she could find, cleaning neighbors' houses, folding laundry, anything to earn a little money. Her hands grew rough, her back ached, but she smiled at Emily and Jacob, refusing to let them see the exhaustion written across her face. Mark worked long hours in construction, often returning home with blisters and aching muscles. Each day, he worried whether he could earn enough to pay rent and buy groceries. There were nights he lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if he had failed his family. Every decision felt critical, every small setback a potential disaster. Emily watched her parents with concern, trying to be brave while grappling with her own fear. She drew pictures of a world she hoped would return to them, their home, the factory, and happy faces, but the drawings couldn't fill the emptiness she felt. Jacob, too young to understand fully, sensed the tension and sometimes cried quietly in his bed, missing the days when life felt simple. One particularly cold evening, the family gathered around the small lantern that barely lit the tiny rented living room. The wind rattled the windows, and the rain tapped against the roof in a steady, relentless rhythm. Sarah spoke softly, We may have lost everything, but we still have each other. Mark nodded slowly, tears glistening in his eyes. We will find our way, no matter how hard it gets. The children held on to their parents, feeling a spark of warmth despite the surrounding hardships. It wasn't much, but it was enough to remind them that love still existed, even in the darkest of times. Days blended into weeks. Some mornings brought small victories, a friendly neighbor lending a hand, a temporary job offer, a kind word from a stranger. Each gesture felt monumental in the context of their struggles. Slowly, Sarah and Mark began to understand that even in the midst of despair, life offered tiny sparks of hope. Mark found work repairing old furniture for neighbors, while Sarah helped with bookkeeping at a small local store. It was tiring work, but it brought in just enough to keep food on the table. Emily and Jacob adapted, learning to cherish the small joys, a shared story before bedtime, a smile, a warm meal. One evening, Sarah and Mark sat quietly after putting the children to bed. Do you remember the mornings before all this? Sarah asked, her voice tinged with sadness. Mark took her hand, squeezing it gently. I do, and I also remember that we never gave up. We've lost much, yes, but not everything. We still have our hearts, our minds, and each other. That counts for more than anything else. Slowly, the Thompsons began to rebuild more than just their material life. They rebuilt their spirit. Each day brought small victories, and with every struggle they overcame, their resilience grew stronger. They realized that life's hardships could break things, yes, but they could also teach lessons that nothing else could. And so, in the dim glow of their little living room, the family learned a quiet truth. Even in the face of adversity, love, hope, and determination could endure. They had been tested, they had struggled, and though the path was far from easy, a sense of quiet strength now ran through their hearts. The nights remained long, but the darkness no longer felt suffocating. With every sunrise, the Thompsons knew they were moving forward slowly, steadily, and together. Because even when everything else is gone, family remains, and hope is never truly lost. It was a rainy afternoon when a gentle knock came at the door. Sarah opened it to find Mrs. Henderson, a neighbor from a few houses down, holding a bag of groceries. I thought these might help, she said softly, her eyes kind. Just a little something to make things easier. Sarah's hands shook as she accepted the bag. Thank you. We don't know how to repay you, she whispered, tears welling up. No need, Mrs. Henderson replied with a smile. Just keep your hearts open. That's enough. That simple act of kindness felt like sunlight piercing through clouds. For the first time in weeks, Sarah felt a tiny spark of hope. Emily and Jacob peeked from behind the door, their eyes wide, realizing that even in the midst of loss, there were still people who cared. A few days later, Mark received a phone call. A small company in town had a short-term project and was willing to hire him. The pay wasn't much, but it was something to start rebuilding. It's a start, Mark said to Sarah that evening, a cautious smile forming on his face. A start is all we need right now. Emily found joy in the little things again. She received new sketchbooks from a kind teacher and had the chance to show her artwork at a local community center. Jacob joined a neighborhood kids club where he laughed and played, temporarily forgetting the hardships at home. Each small victory, no matter how minor, became a beacon of hope for the family. They began to realize that life was not just about what they had lost, but also about what remained and what could still be gained. One evening, as rain pattered softly against the windows. Sarah sat by the lantern and reflected on the week. "We've been through so much," she said quietly. "But look at us. We're still here, still together, still finding little sparks of hope." Mark nodded, his eyes reflecting gratitude and cautious optimism. "Hope isn't always loud or obvious," he said. "Sometimes it's just a neighbor bringing groceries, or a small job offer, or even a moment of laughter from our children." The Thompsons began to take small steps toward rebuilding their lives. Mark saved every penny from his project work. Sarah kept a detailed log of every odd job she did. And the children found comfort in routines that brought normalcy. They also learned that hope could be contagious. Friends and neighbors who saw their resilience began offering more help, not out of pity, but because the Thompsons had inspired them with quiet strength and perseverance. One particularly sunny afternoon, Emily held up her latest drawing, a picture of the family, in front of a rebuilt home with bright windows and a glowing lantern. "See, Mama? This is us again," she said proudly. Sarah hugged her tightly, realizing that even through hardship, dreams and imagination could thrive. Slowly, life began to feel lighter. The weight of despair lifted little by little, replaced by small joys, laughter, and the comforting knowledge that family could survive even the toughest storms. And as the family gathered that evening around their modest dinner table, Mark raised his cup of tea. "To small sparks of hope," he said softly. "Because sometimes it's the smallest things that carry us forward." Sarah smiled. Emily and Jacob nodded, and for the first time in weeks, the Thompsons felt a sense of quiet peace. They had endured, they had survived, and though challenges remained, hope had returned to their hearts. The weeks that followed tested the Thompsons in ways they could never have imagined. Every morning brought new challenges, and the weight of loss pressed heavily on each of them. Sarah woke before dawn, preparing breakfast for the children and herself, then left for the few odd jobs she could find, cleaning neighbors' houses, folding laundry, anything to earn a little money. Her hands grew rough, her back ached, but she smiled at Emily and Jacob, refusing to let them see the exhaustion written across her face. Mark worked long hours in construction, often returning home with blisters and aching muscles. Each day, he worried whether he could earn enough to pay rent and buy groceries. There were nights he lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if he had failed his family. Every decision felt critical, every small setback a potential disaster. Emily watched her parents with concern, trying to be brave while grappling with her own fear. She drew pictures of a world she hoped would return to them, their home, the factory, and happy faces, but the drawings couldn't fill the emptiness she felt. Jacob, too young to understand fully, sensed the tension and sometimes cried quietly in his bed, missing the days when life felt simple. One particularly cold evening, the family gathered around the small lantern that barely lit the tiny rented living room. The wind rattled the windows, and the rain tapped against the roof in a steady, relentless rhythm. Sarah spoke softly. "We may have lost everything, but we still have each other." Mark nodded slowly, tears glistening in his eyes. "We will find our way, no matter how hard it gets." The children held on to their parents, feeling a spark of warmth despite the surrounding hardships. It wasn't much, but it was enough to remind them that love still existed, even in the darkest of times. Days blended into weeks. Some mornings brought small victories, a friendly neighbor lending a hand, a temporary job offer, a kind word from a stranger. Each gesture felt monumental in the context of their struggles. Slowly, Sarah and Mark began to understand that even in the midst of despair, life offered tiny sparks of hope. Mark found work repairing old furniture for neighbors, while Sarah helped with bookkeeping at a small local store. It was tiring work, but it brought in just enough to keep food on the table. Emily and Jacob adapted, learning to cherish the small joys, a shared story before bedtime, a smile, a warm meal. One evening, Sarah and Mark sat quietly after putting the children to bed. "Do you remember the mornings before all this?" Sarah asked, her voice tinged with sadness. Mark took her hand, squeezing it gently. "I do, and I also remember that we never gave up. We've lost much, yes, but not everything. We still have our hearts, our minds, and each other. That counts for more than anything else." Slowly, the Thompsons began to rebuild more than just their material life. They rebuilt their spirit. Each day brought small victories, and with every struggle they overcame, their resilience grew stronger. They realized that life's hardships could break things, yes, but they could also teach lessons that nothing else could. And so, in the dim glow of their little living room, the family learned a quiet truth. Even in the face of adversity, love, hope, and determination could endure. They had been tested, they had struggled, and though the path was far from easy, a sense of quiet strength now ran through their hearts. The nights remained long, but the darkness no longer felt suffocating. With every sunrise, the Thompsons knew they were moving forward slowly, steadily, and together. Because even when everything else is gone, family remains, and hope is never truly lost. Months passed. The Thompsons worked tirelessly, but gradually the pieces of their lives began to come together again. The small rented home was now warm and welcoming. Every corner reflected care and resilience. Emily's drawings hung on the walls, Jacob's toys neatly arranged, and the soft glow of the lantern lit their evenings. Mark had secured a steady construction job, and Sarah had started bookkeeping for a small local business. Though the pay was modest, it was enough to sustain them and slowly rebuild what had been lost. Each paycheck, each small victory, was a reminder that progress was possible. Emily and Jacob thrived in the supportive community around them. Emily's artwork gained recognition at the local art club, while Jacob made friends who lifted his spirits and made him laugh again. The children's laughter, once rare, now filled the house with life and hope. One evening, as the family gathered around the lantern that had guided them through their darkest nights, Sarah turned to Mark. "Do you remember the mornings before all this?" she asked softly. Mark smiled faintly, a mixture of nostalgia and pride in his eyes. "I do. And I also remember that we never gave up. We've lost much, yes, but not everything. We still have our hearts, our minds, and each other. That counts for more than anything else." The children watched their parents, sensing the quiet strength and determination that had kept them going. They didn't understand all the hardships yet, but they felt the love and protection that surrounded them. Slowly, the Thompsons realized a truth that only hardship could teach. Life's true wealth is never measured by possessions or money, but by love, resilience, and hope. They had lost almost everything but the bond they shared, and the lessons they had learned were invaluable. On weekends, the family would sit together by the window, watching the town's quiet streets, remembering the difficult journey that had brought them here. Every laugh, every smile, every small act of kindness reminded them that life could be rebuilt. Brick by brick, hope by hope. One evening, after putting the children to bed, Sarah whispered to Mark, "We lost everything, But we found something even greater. Mark nodded, feeling the weight of their journey, and said softly, "Yes. We found hope. We found resilience. And most importantly, we found each other." Emily and Jacob slept peacefully that night, unaware of the storms their family had endured, yet surrounded by the warmth, love, and hope that had grown stronger than ever. And so, the Thompson story became one not just of loss, but of recovery, courage, and enduring love. Even when life takes everything away, the human heart can find hope. And families can rise stronger than before. Because, at the end of the day, it is not what we lose that defines us, it is what we hold in our hearts, the bonds we nurture, and the hope that carries us through the darkest nights.